I had this very nice cinematic.
Oh, I guess we're live. That didn't quite work out as planned. But everyone, welcome to QuaranTeaTime Happy Hour Episode 2. My name's Zach Rubino, and I have John Baumgartner here with us again, and Augie Kim, first time on the show. Welcome, Augie, also from Expressway. And our special guests today are Ryan Scott and Drew Saracco. Ryan's a director, and Drew's a cinematographer. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming on. I hope you guys have been doing well in quarantine. I'm sure life has been exciting for you, as it has been for all of us.
Oh, yeah, man. Just a whirlwind over here. Going crazy.
Going crazy. Well, I wanted to take a look at some of your recent projects. But first, before doing that, I just kind of wanted to ask you guys how you got your start in filmmaking. If you could tell us a little bit about the tracks that got you on where you're at today. Ryan, let's start with you.
Sure. I guess the short story, I used to ride BMX bikes when I was a kid and would shoot photos of my friends. I started breaking a bunch of legs, so I started shooting more than riding. And that led to just shooting for a bunch of magazines and shooting editorially and then commercially for a bunch of years.
The tracks that got you on where you're at today. Ryan, let's start with you.
Sure. I guess. Are you guys hearing that? The short story?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it's cool. Luke Martin is also joining us behind stage, and
is our technical director.
Microphone was on.
Cool.
So yeah, BMX and took that into photography, and that eventually led to.
Yeah, I just started shooting stuff. I think a lot of people come from skate and BMX stuff. I think Drew might have also, just so many people, because you just are out there experimenting with cameras nonstop. So it gave me the opportunity to start shooting some video stuff for some of the brands that I was shooting stuff for. Probably really bad video stuff at the time, but I was like having free reign to experiment. And then that led into me working as a camera operator and a DP for a number of years then. A little bit of unconventional way to get there, but it's not unheard of nowadays. And then I got to the point that I felt limited in what I was making, in what I could have in my head, and how I could translate that into what I was making, doing things either small or by myself. And I wanted to start just directing, and then kind of bringing in people that were better at shooting and doing other things than I was. So it kind of led to today, and I've been directing kind of full time about 3 years now. I've kind of always been doing that, and was director DP and a lot of stuff in the middle of that, before that. And then now I kind of started turning down work about 3 years ago for like cam op jobs and all that stuff, and luckily I got over the hump, and here I am.
How many bones have you broken while directing, Ryan?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, 0 bones. Yeah, so much so safer. Yeah,
good.
God willing.
Good.
Yeah, I want to hear a little bit more about how you made that jump, because it's not easy to switch gears like that. And I think we're going to talk about one of your projects just briefly in a second. But Drew, well, how about you? How did you get your start?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much this pretty traditional, I guess, setup. I went to film school, and then I graduated, and I became a production assistant, and then I worked my way through the camera department, and I guess all the while I was kind of shooting. But yeah, I kind of my first times ever, filming with a camera on the regular was when I was 12 and 13 years old and making skate videos with my friends. So, and jackass videos as well. I think that inspired a whole generation for sure.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
Yeah.
So when did you guys meet and start collaborating?
Our mutual friend, I think it was, I don't know if it was the LU thing or the Peter English thing.
Oh yeah, I guess that was when did we meet at Rough Cuts?
Maybe before that. Yeah,
I don't know.
But either way, we had our friend Peter English and our friend LU. I believe it was LU's job. He shot this short doc called Stronger. that drew DP, the little passion project thing, and I came out to excuse me, I came out to help out on that, and was shooting a bunch of photos and just sort of lending a hand, doing whatever on that. And then when the Volkswagen thing came up, I thought it was a good opportunity to bring on some help and try a new working process. So that's when first time we worked together.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
I
guys
think
are just answering questions for me. I love it.
Oh, well, yeah, we keep them coming.
I think we have.
I saw that. I
something
was
to
just going to
queue
say, I
up
saw
on.
that project that you guys did with Drew, that you did with Elliot. It was really neat. And then the Volkswagen project came not too much later. Was that an early directing project for you, Ryan?
Yeah, I think that might have been the first project that I didn't, direct or DP or just try to do all myself, or like a really small thing. And coming from a photography background, like I was always like, oh, geez, I'll just do it. Why would anyone want to help me do my thing? So getting over that, where you're realizing how much better things could be when you collaborate on stuff. But yeah, this came my way through. The subject of this is kind of a mutual friend. He's like this Volkswagen ambassador. So this is a branded content project for Wörthersee, the biggest Volkswagen and Audi show in the world, in Wörthersee, Austria, every year. And so Volkswagen approached him. They send him car parts. He does all kinds of things with Volkswagen. And he knew of me from mutual friends and reached out and asked if I wanted to do it. It was actually a production company in Germany who did a series of these. And they reached out, and I directed this one over here for this subject. So, yeah. But yeah, we can take a look.
I mean, I think this project looks really great. You guys kind of hit it out of the park with this one.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
and
Drew crushed this, man. I was like, oh man, I'm never shooting anything ever again after this.
so that was your first project, and at that point, you guys just started working together more regularly.
Yeah, I think we hit it off, pretty well.
Went really well. I mean, yeah, I kind of want to rewind and say, I think it was like Masters in Motion. I think is like really what kind of like I look at as like this starting point of like, us getting together and kind of deciding like, all right, we're going to start collaborating and making things. And then like one by one, I guess that was the first project, which came not too long after. It was like months later, right?
Yeah, it was like right there at the same time.
So was that like your first like big branded project, would you say?
I'd say, yeah, first like big branded project. I've done all this small stuff, but
yeah, still like a pretty small job at the same time.
Very small job. Yeah, like insanely small. It was like a 4 or 5 person crew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Drew and I were just out there bootstrapping that for sure. And I came out and did some pickup stuff with the drone, even later, because no client, no anybody there. It was just like us and the subject shooting this. And then, we had gotten kind of a rundown and a brief from the style and like with a format for the other ones that the German production company was doing. They're coincidentally called Format 77, like format. So, but yeah, we just kind of hammered out a few lights, and location was cool. He was awesome to work with, and we were off and running. It was pretty ambitious. Like looking at it now, like if someone was like, "Hey, here's what we want to do for this amount of money,"
crazy schedule to shoot one day for that. Yeah. Also,
yeah.
Well, what did you have to submit to get that job? Did you write a treatment for that? Were they looking at some previous work of yours?
Yeah, they had looked at work, but it was mostly just on trusting Jamie, the subject. They were just like, all right, yeah, like they looked at my work, thought it was like up to snuff, and I think I may have sent them Drew's stuff too. It was like, this is the guy I want to work with on it, and so those things combined equaled Voltron trust, and they were like, okay, sure, yeah, go for it. But at that time, I knew like so little about the treatment world. I was like, what is a treatment? And even then, I was doing like little write-ups and outlines and things instead of like full-on treatments like we're doing now. So it was a bit of naivety that just it sort of worked out for us.
Well, so I also I think I want to bring up a short film you guys did a couple years ago called Fishtown Soldier. I kind of had thought Machine was the project you guys almost did on spec to help land other jobs. I'm surprised, not surprised, but I just didn't realize that it wasn't a spec project.
Yeah,
I think it felt like one at times.
yeah.
But,
I mean, I think it was kind of the perfect. I mean, it could have been a spec project because we had full creative control to do whatever we want, but
yeah,
we just got lucky that
way, like, just kind of like got to show up, do our own thing, and really, like, I don't know.
Yeah, but then still attach like a real big brand name to it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a luxury you don't always get, right?
No.
Working for bigger brands, and like sometimes really great work can come from that. So I just kind of assumed that that was the case. But I mean, the next project we're going to look at from you guys, Fishtown Soldier, that was a short film you did in the summer of 2017. It's definitely a passion project. I want to hear a little bit about why you wanted to do that film, and you know what it took to get it done. Sure. Ryan, I mean, was this a passion project in your eyes?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I live a couple blocks from that kind of corner right there that Dennis, the subject of the film, goes and plays handball at, where he grew up in Fishtown. And I've just been walking by there, you know, all the time, and I see him out there constantly in the summer. He's out there like every afternoon, all day, every weekend, just sweating his ass off, playing handball in the middle of the street where there's just dodging cars and doing this, like the worst possible place to be doing that. And I'm like, this guy's like a maniac. Like it's like a 50-year-old man, shirt off, sweating everywhere. So finally I just went up and started talking to him and like asked him why he's playing on this wall. And, you know, he had an interesting story about why. He didn't necessarily know, like he wasn't like, yeah, I have this interesting story to tell. He had no idea that he was interesting, you know, and which was kind of cool working with him. He's like, oh, you want to make a thing about me? I kind of like that, like real, like human element. There was like not a touch of, I don't know,
no pretense.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, and I asked him if he'd be willing to have us to make a film about him. And he was okay, sure, yeah, why not? I spent like a day with him, like 2 half days, just kind of like 1 half day myself, and Drew and I hung out with him another half day, and we kind of scouted stuff and just sort of got him comfortable because he was just, you know, never done anything even close to this. He barely had a camera pointed at him his whole life. So I just wanted to walk around with him and get him, you know, comfortable being there and with us. And I think that was super helpful then on the day because he had a familiarity when we were shooting, and it wasn't so like 0 to 100.
Yeah, it certainly comes across when you watch it. So Luke, behind the scenes, Luke, if we could actually play that, and we're going to try and just play, we had some issues last week where Facebook got mad at us for copyrighted materials, and the last 2 minutes of Fishtown Soldier has like a song in it. We're like worried that Facebook might cut out. So we're going to play like the first 3 minutes.
Okay.
Luke, do we got audio?
Yeah, it's there. It's quiet.
You can turn it up.
In Fishtown. It's a neighborhood in Philadelphia. 8 siblings of mine. 4 boys, 4 girls. 2-bedroom house. Growing up with 8 kids, that's what I wanted. You know, I wanted a bunch of kids. Had 2. Boy and a girl. My goal was to raise my kids, and I had no ambitions at the time of moving away. I'd like to get back into the neighborhood, but I can't afford to live there. It's a hot market as far as real estate. There's construction going on, they're diverting traffic, the houses are different styles. growing up here, you know, walk down, you knew everybody said hello. I say hello to all the people, but there's no hellos back. I feel like a tourist in my own neighborhood. After my divorce, I was just going through a lot of emotions. I lost my wife, my kids, job, car, house. I was just drinking as an escape, trying to forget things. I realized I can't let this thing overtake me, so I went on. There's 2 laundromats that I pass going down to the neighborhood. If you move away or you're going through hard times, going back home is a comfort zone. It's 3 streets crisscross. It's in the heart of the neighborhood, so everybody always met there. Everybody passes by that corner. I played there since the 70s. There's some bad cracks, manhole cover, but I'm just familiar with that wall. I like that wall. But now it's a little bit tougher with the traffic patterns. Try and work with it. It's not just the wall, it's the avoiding the traffic, dodging it. The traffic is part of the game too. It's always been my corner, my post, like a soldier.
Look, you can. Oh, it was just. It just picks up there.
Yes.
We could play it into it a little bit, but maybe we'll just. It really starts to pick up right there at the end, and the tempo increases, and it really takes on a nice energy. So, what were some considerations in like making this? I mean, this was a passion project for you guys. You wanted to tell this guy's story, but obviously you're self-producing it. What were some things that you guys had to consider once you decided to do it?
Man, I want to act like I spent a ton of time storyboarding and writing this out and all this stuff, but we just spent a day hanging out with him and pre-interviewing, and we just decided what kind of the interesting parts that we wanted to show and shoot were about his story. And I kind of set up a schedule with him based on that and based on what he had, and we just went out and shot him, you know. And admittedly, I mean, I learned a lot about directing on this project because I still wasn't, you know, the Volkswagen thing was a little more easygoing. I felt like we setting up lights and, you know, going kind of doing setups and then shooting setups at least. Whereas this, we're just following around a subject, and I had come from, you know, being reactionary and operating and shooting my own stuff. And that's it's a different mindset, you know, whereas you can just react and do that versus like having to verbalize that and do that to someone that's shooting with you. It's a different skill set and a different way of working for sure. And there were moments where, you know, he was doing things and I would have instinctually like just started pointing the camera elsewhere. And I, you know, was just leaving Drew hanging, holding this heavy ass movie, like up where I should have been directing, you know. And I think we learned a lot about our process, and that kind of snapped me into like, you know, really diving in and learning that part of it for me. So it ended up being an important thing for me. I cut this also, so through the edit, I learned a lot about how to go forward with passion projects and produce things a little more. Not that I'm not proud of this for sure. I think we really got something good out of it, but I think just to make our lives easier and some things that I wish could be different about it now, I think could be prevented just doing a little more pre-production on a passion project. So I found a lot in the edit on this, which is, a lot of doc stuff. You do that, but this one we could have produced a little more. So what do you think?
I mean, I think like we did spend a fair amount of time like leading up to it talking about like what we wanted to do. Like we knew we wanted to make a film, and so we were like, like kind of brainstorming forever. And then one day you brought up Dennis to me, and I was just like, oh God, like that's like, we should chase that down because it kind of fits the criteria for like, passion. It wouldn't be too expensive to produce ourselves. Like everything's right there. Like, and like we were looking for something simple that we could go out and do in a day. And like that would, make for an overall compelling final product or overall piece, hopefully. And everything seemed to just kind of like click into place as far as that was concerned. So then like we then just like talked about how we wanted to accomplish it, what we wanted to say. But then a lot of it was kind of just like flying by the seat of our pants on the day and just like chasing down whatever felt right.
And that's not this, I mean, I like that too, I like just finding it, but I think we needed a little bit more of a plan A, which is what I do now, like a really, really heavily planned out plan A, and then, leaving all the room to jump around to plan B, C, D on the day then. But yeah, that was kind of.
You feel Dennis would have been like accepting or able to work with like more of a structured sort of plan, or would you have still kept it very loose in your dealings with him?
Yeah, he wasn't great with structure. I'd say he'd like, even directing him, he would kind of just like, once he was playing handball, it was like all bets are off. Like getting him to stop and like do a different thing. He was like, okay. He was like, this is when I play, man. That was sort of the. Yeah.
We kind of did like everything kind of worked out like as far as like what plan we did make. Like we knew we wanted to shoot the interview first, and the interview, like it was audio only, but we wanted to start with that, and then we wanted to kind of like, walk around the neighborhood with him for a little bit, and then we ultimately wanted to shoot like the him playing handball, like super stylized and like in cinematic, and we wanted to do that like during golden hour or into golden hour while the sun was setting, and we kind of like. Yeah, so
I guess I'm not giving us as much credit as every time Drew brings something. I'm like, oh yeah, we did some shit. Okay, so
I mean, go ahead, John.
I was around like my early rough cuts days when you guys were workshopping this too. Can you talk like a little bit about what steps you needed to take after the fact to make sure the project didn't fall flat? You guys self-produced it. You did all this work. You got the stuff.
Yeah.
But like how did you keep it up and see it through to this final product?
Well, because I edit also, and I liken myself to be a pretty strong editor, especially at that time. It just made sense. Like I knew what we had, and I think I was editing, within like 2 hours of like getting home and like upload. I was just like so psyched on what we had shot. So I really hit the ground running with it, and I knew we had it, or at least had a good form of it that I could make something from in the edit. And Drew, once I kind of had the cut, Drew really pushed us to spend money on a colorist, which I think really made the footage shine. So through kind of mutual friends and stuff, we ended up working with Kath Raish at Company 3. And that was the bulk of probably what we spent on the project, which, she's from Philly. She loved the story. She helped us out for sure. But, a little chunk that Drew and I split. Costs besides that were, some lenses and the movie and stuff. We had almost
sound design too.
Oh, thank you. Jesus. Yeah. We went to De Facto Sound and they did sound design on it also. And they crushed it. But I will say I learned a lot about sound design through that, and that almost made me a better sound designer on my own stuff, which I tend to do a lot. But yeah, they super happy with the result on both ends of that. That color especially just made it really shine.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think I wanted to kind of, I mean, you guys touched on this a little bit, but like, this was like an extremely lean production. I mean, the crew size, Drew, it was on you
4
and
people.
Heather.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
Heather Treston.
Yeah, camera department was Heather and I, and then we had Chris DiBenedetto as like our PA, and Ryan. It was the 4 of us.
Yeah,
all day.
And
not ideal shooting
no
circumstances for.
But I do think it was like a good, like Drew and I met each other at a good time where we were both, I feel like, at this cusp of
we were scrapping hard,
doing something different, that we kind of believed in one another, and we were just, instead of being like, oh, what the hell, this is hard, I'm sweating my ass off, like we need more people, we were just like, I don't have any money. Do you have any money? No, let's just do this shit, So, and we've grown, obviously, but in a number of ways, and we do things differently now, maybe. But I mean, I don't necessarily regret doing it this way. But I'll take
not at all.
Yeah.
Did your lighting package come off a big truck on this one, or?
We used what was available to us.
Right on. No, that's excellent. I think you guys did a great job of it too.
Yeah, thanks.
Did you scout for the lighting, or was it kind of? I mean, it looks like it.
Yeah. That half day that we spent with Dennis, it
was like the same window of time that we shot the film in. So we like, also that was like one of the shortest shoot days. It was like 6 hours start to finish, maybe 7 hours. Like,
all things considered. Especially because we got a lot of stuff.
There were some like unforeseen technical difficulties as always. Wireless feed wasn't working. Heather was tethered to me.
Poor Heather.
Pulling focus off of a 502 while I was running around like a madman with the easy rig in the run. She had a little 502, I think we were using like my Hedon follow focus at the time, which like only works sometimes anyway. And then the wire, or like my wireless, my Teradek, crapped out that day, and so we ended up just cabling out of my monitor into her monitor, like with like a maybe 6 foot BNC cable.
Yeah. If that, you can see it in behind the scenes.
There's some behind the scenes stuff. Yeah, she might as well have been on a manual follow focus. Like,
yeah.
You guys mentioned that you didn't go into it with storyboards, but did you literally just kind of go in, spray everything down with like your, just a photographic eye, or were there any specific frames that you were like, these specific shots, like I definitely like want in there right from the beginning?
I think there were a couple like we felt like inspired on the Scout, but the whole sequence where he's like stretching and getting ready. I remember we had like scouted out some stuff to shoot for. But we had I felt like we had more so like kind of come up with like an overall like rule set in a way, or like really loose. Like I remember talking about like always keeping the camera moving. Like that was like one of like, that was like our main kind of like stylistic rule for the look of and feel of it. We were like, just like all gimbal all the time, cameras following, either like following the action or like, pushing in or pulling away, or constant, we wanted this like constant motion kind of going throughout the entire piece, right?
We definitely, there weren't storyboards, but we kind of built these sandboxes or scenes, just knowing that if we put him in there to play in that sandbox, that he was going to build a castle and we'd be there to capture it. Like we just knew like what he was going to be doing based on our Scout. And we're like, okay, if he's there, oh shit, that's how you stretch over a fire hydrant. Yeah, we just knew we'd be able to, shoot that and get something great out of it through all the scenes. So I guess it was outlined and storyboard in our heads, but it wasn't like physically drawn out or anything. There weren't. And then also on the Scout, we were like, oh, this shot would be great. I think we talked about the shot of him standing in the middle of the street, and a few other little things. But yeah, it just wasn't like super specific. It was more just like creating the worlds and have him play in those, and we'd capture it then.
I love the soft pretzel shop.
That place,
that's like one of my favorites.
Yeah. It's just what he is, man. It's just what he does. He goes down and gets a pizza pretzel. That's what he does every time. Yeah, I feel like
do
that.
the same.
Living the life. Ryan, you did like a lot of thinking about this project, but how much were you thinking about how this piece could translate into like commercial work opportunities after the fact?
Zero, pretty much.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make stuff, and I just wanted to make stuff that was super cool, which is, I think, the best guiding light to go towards with passion projects.
Absolutely.
Because especially, if you're making something with commercial work in mind, then you're going into it, making creative decisions based on what a certain client that you're going after might like in it, rather than what your voice is in that project. And I think it ends up hurting you. Spec work especially, I'm not like crazy about like spec commercial work for that reason. It can certainly bring you, certain work. You don't want to make car work or something like that, and you just really need to create something. But I would rather find, I don't know, some guy that like builds hot rods and do some kind of thing about him or whatever that is, and you find ways to create that car work and in your reel without it being, this thing that strips you of your own creative control.
It's less fabricated, certainly at that point. Oh, that's awesome. Cool.
Yeah. But yeah,
I love this shot right here.
Yeah, Drew called that one out. And that's probably one of my favorites. It may be my favorite in the entire thing. God bless Heather, pulling focus while we push.
It was pretty incredible, actually.
Yeah. Heather Treston, AC.
Heather, former Expressway employee.
Yeah.
Hi, Heather.
She was interning at Expressway. That's what
right.
got her the job. That I was like literally
nice.
there. Like, who am I going to ask? And it just
you can pull focus, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can now.
Who won't
That's
kill
awesome.
me?
Yeah.
Hey, did you wear an easy rig for this whole thing, Drew?
Yes, absolutely.
Was the ready rig even a thing at this point?
No, probably.
I don't know.
Which movie did you use?
It was a Movie Pro.
Movie Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, that shot's a favorite too.
We didn't cover the general tech specs on this. No, look, Heather's on. Hi, Heather.
What's up?
Heather, you angel. Thank you. Thank you for
Drew,
everything.
Yeah, you killed it.
Are you I don't know, this is kind of like a bad question, but are you using Movi a lot these days, or are you using it differently? I think we've talked a little bit about this.
On every job. This is much
every
to
job.
Much to every AAC's demise. Yeah, no, I've been I don't know, using them in all sorts of different ways, but first and foremost using them while trying to not hold them. Put that responsibility on the grip and electric department now. I usually put the Movi on a dolly or on a jib and like kind of operate remotely a lot and use it as like a affordable solution for, a remote head, basically, which works out great, especially with like, the black arm now that's come out, and all these, stabilization options are there. You just often like throw the Movi on a dolly on a black arm and just push that thing around all day.
All dolly, all day.
Project like Fishtown Soldier, that just given the size of crew
that wouldn't
and
have
whatnot.
been, it would not have been the right. I think that film wouldn't have been the right approach for that either, because that's like doing that is trying to get more like controlled dolly like movements anyway, and
it's much more organic how we shot it.
Yeah, it still needed like a handheld vibe. Plus, like I was moving, you had to move pretty fast. Like it's an interesting challenge to cover a dude playing handball while you have like the 20-pound gimbal machine in your hands and like you're whipping all around. It's like I was like,
and Heather's 4 feet behind you.
4 feet behind you, and you're like I didn't realize like how fat. I thought handball was going to be easy to shoot for some reason, and I was like, holy crap, this is. I I think isn't there like one behind the scenes video where like Dennis hits the ball and then it like flies right over. You could see it like kind of popping up like right.
These guys posted it. It's actually on Expressway's
him.
Instagram story right now. But yeah, that thing is flying too.
Right.
The wind past his ears.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that gimbals are relatively new in context to like camera movement. I think like I remember like in 2013 or something is when that Vince Lafayette or whatever his name is did that like taxi like video with I don't even know if it was an M5 at that point. Like
still crazy. Yeah, like the rollerblade thing.
Yeah. Now they're on.
You guys shot this. What did you guys shoot this on? Get that out of the way real quick.
It was a red helium, which I think had just been released, and then a set of the old Zeiss B Speed lenses. And what did we do for neutral density? Do we do like? Do we just tape filters on
glasses?
Yeah, I know I had to stop down quite a bit on some shots, and
you can still see the triangular bokeh and
we were not shooting wide open. We were shooting. I feel like I was like somewhere between like a 4 and a 5.6 for a lot of the day exterior stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I don't know what we did for Andy.
Yeah,
I feel like I don't know. It's have to see.
Do you remember?
Is there a matte box on the front of that camera?
We'll look at the BTS. Maybe we can tell you, Heather. Maybe you can chime in and let us know. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, I wanted to take a look at a project you guys did more recently for the Philadelphia Eagles. It was their 2019 hype video. Totally in the different end of the spectrum. You guys, this is an agency-produced project. There was a lot of crew. There was a lot of locations, a lot of cast, and I'm sure some tight deadlines. I think we can just start playing that off, and then we'll talk about it. Luke, if you want to play that one.
Birds flying high.
Check this out. Check out Kelsey.
Breeze drifting by. You know how I feel. It's a new dawn.
It's a new day.
It's a new life. Oh, me.
Feeling good. How you feeling? Damn good. You ready? Let's make this money.
And I'm feeling good.
Nice. I wanted to talk about this one because you guys have done a lot of nice projects, but this one just on terms of contrasting scale to Fishtown Soldier is very different. Can you just kind of tell us, Ryan, on like a conceptual level, how you approach this differently and like how'd you approach it differently?
Shout out Anderson Bradshaw in the comments from 160/90 who produced this. Yeah, I mean, so 160 had come with the concept for a totally different track initially, actually. And I won't say what it is, but they wanted an exorbitant amount of money that the budget didn't allow to license the rights to use the track, even if we didn't use the original, like we did. So we were all just looking for a new track that we could use. This project's pretty near and dear to me, because being in Philadelphia, the Philly Hype video has been like such a badass thing to aspire to, for so long. I was up in the Catskills with my now wife, and I proposed to her up there, and we got engaged, went back to the cabin, and Justin Padilla, the producer there at 160, called me and said that I had won the job, like about an hour after I got engaged. So it was like, we had some drinks that night. It was a lot of fun. But in that same conversation, he said he had, they couldn't use the track. So my wife and I, on the drive back, she was just like playing through. We were just like listening to every single song that had the word fly, had the word anything that we could like somehow fit in and relate to this, Eagles fly, whatever. And a Nina Simone song came on, Feeling Good, and it just opens, Birds Flying High. And I just love that track because it has like this soul and a little bit of like a badass, these minor keys to it. And I was like, holy shit, this is it. And I was like so passionate about like this being it. I came in like guns blazing to that meeting to pitch to the client about how it would work and what it would look like. Because my initial treatment was for the other song, and it had a little bit of a different vibe for it then, because it was obviously there's some stuff that's, with people saying the lines and speaking certain things. So it was very specific. So it had to shift pretty drastically from the initial treatment, but the concept was still kind of there, that we wanted this iconic song that was recognizable and remix it into a different thing.
So it seems like, did you create the treatment for this, or was the 160's creative, or?
So they're creative. They came with the initial track, and they wanted an iconic track that was recognizable that we would remix somehow in this way. And they had a few references to use. Adidas did a really great spot using Frank Sinatra's "My Way." That was a big reference for this. But then it would need to be a little more playful than that, though, too. That one's like really, dark and futuristic and weird. So this one's a little more inviting with the cast and who we're working with. So yeah, I wrote the treatment then based on that creative. It was probably a 40-page treatment or so. And yeah, I was pretty proud of the treatment. Also, it was a little different, a little more playful than some of the ones I had done. It was like emojis and all this stuff in it, which didn't quite like translate into the final product. But that's kind of what it is.
So I'm having go ahead, Zach.
Oh, go. Well, I was just curious. Did you still have to license this? I imagine you did.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the 160 is great in-house producing. They handled all that, and luckily they were able to negotiate something that worked, which is still like a big chunk of the budget. But I think it only works if it is a recognizable, iconic song, and everyone luckily recognized that, and we had to do it right,
I'm having like flashbacks to seeing the original schedule of this, and like, do either of you guys know how many locations you ended up shooting?
Jesus.
Yeah, I thought you would say that. Yeah, so just let's talk about the schedule, Drew. How you nailed it. It looks excellent. But how did you pull that off, and in how much time?
I mean, yeah, it was like, it was a super challenging schedule. There were like, how many locations? I don't know. It was a 5-day shoot. Yeah, it was 3 to 4 locations a day that were company moves, not just like setups. And I mean, I don't know. We just we had all the crew we needed. We had like the right tools for the job, and we were just like able to work fast and furious on that one. Brian and I had heavily kind of discussed in pre-production, once again, no storyboards, but Ryan shot listed everything out and was like super, he definitely knew what he wanted. And so I don't think we like really spent a lot of time like overshooting anything. I think we kind of went into each location, picked our 3 to 4 shots that we needed to kind of, fit into the overall scope and story of the ad, and then got right on out of there. We had to lose a scene on the last day due to like the craziest torrential downpour I've ever seen in my entire life. And just like, it was like a lightning storm, and we were under 95. So we were standing there like waiting. Man, I should have sent you guys that behind the scenes video. I feel pretty hilarious.
You did send us some behind the scenes of like a guy running down the cobblestone street. Was that scheduled for rain or
no?
Yeah, that's an example of a plan B on the day. That was like a little bit of a different scene that revolved around these like 2 guys in an office that see Deshaun Jackson's Instagram with this crazy training video, and it's sort of like, I can do that shit, and they go outside and he's doing a similar thing. Shot the little office scene, go outside, and then all of a sudden it starts sprinkling. Then it's like a downpour, and we had a bunch of people. It was just outside 160's office, so like they like grabbed all kinds of folks that worked in there to stay late and be a part of it, and some were happy to do so, and once it started raining, others were not so happy to be there. It was like 20 extra people just sitting around in the rain. So we were waiting out the rain, and then, I was talking to the folks there, and we were like, let's just like, this is cool, right? If he's down to do this, like this could look like pretty badass. So yeah, he was like, oh, hey, let's do it. So he like sprinted down this cobblestone in like this torrential rain, which is, elevates it and makes it obviously like that much like crazier and wackier that he's out there doing this in the middle of that. He's that diehard of a fan, so it shifted what came in the edit a little bit, but I'm super happy with that sequence. Hunter Saeed edited this at 160, and I think he absolutely crushed it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like, I guess it's interesting to note that, like, you always come up upon unexpected, problems that you need to solve like immediately on the fly when you're working on that stuff. And like, I think the majority of that shoot was all steady cam, and like we had to like kind of change our gears in the way we wanted to approach that scene, like that, like obviously the rain, presents its own interesting issues. And Ryan, didn't we like, I guess the shot that ended up making the cut was just like you had brought that Blackmagic pocket cam, and we just kind of set up like it was like right. having like a nice card in your back pocket there. I don't know if that's like interest or something you guys want to talk about, but like
what'd you guys do?
So that was sorry, go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, go for it, Ryan. Yeah.
That was an example of Drew and I having a good working relationship and not like screaming at me like in the middle of this. Like he just knew. So we were set up to shoot Steadicam. This guy, like his buddy, like filming him on the phone, and there's all this phone footage in between. So this was like one of our 3 scenes that included some phone footage in the spot. And it's downpouring. We're ready to shoot, and I just like ran and went to the ACs and was like, hey, can we set up that camera, put it on a long lens really quick? And they're like, oh, okay. And Drew's like, what are you doing? It's like, oh, we're gonna do a second camera really quick. So we set that up just like right down the line, like on whatever the conversion was. It was like an 85 or something like that. And that's I think both the shots made it in the cut, the Steadicam and that, but they're so quick. And the hero shot is definitely that straight on slow motion in the rain off of the Blackmagic 4K camera. We popped the lens on like super quick, and Drew ran down there and manned it for me really quick instead of being like, oh, this fucking guy. So sorry.
Yeah, but that whole shoot, like I remember, was a lot of like troubleshooting on the fly kind of stuff, and just like having these just working together. I think that was like once again another thing, just working together, trusting each other, and kind of like having like doing whatever it takes to just get the shot, because we were waiting around forever, and we were about to release all the talent, and then it was like, oh wait, hold on, here we go, we can just barely pull this off.
Yeah. We got exactly.
Yeah.
We got just what we needed though. So
Totally.
it worked out.
Yeah, and it's a
I
great shot.
Thanks. I don't think I mean, Drew, you can say, you won't hurt my feelings, but I don't think I really overshoot things
No.
very much at all.
Yeah.
Like I'm a couple of takes and we're out kind of.
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
guy.
Yeah,
So,
which I mean, like we didn't have a choice on that one.
yeah.
But it worked out.
Drew,
I don't know.
Drew, you said you guys were in and out of your many locations. But it is clear to me that you did not light this all up with a bounce card and an
No, yeah.
What was your crew size, and like what did your lighting package look like that you're like tearing in and out of these locations?
Yeah, I mean, well, like we didn't have anything crazy big, but it was I think our biggest light was an M40, which kind of just played in almost every setup, and it was kind of like a, I don't know, like we decided to take like a very simple approach. We just wanted to have like this kind of like strong, hazy backlight, or just like big source, or make that source big and relatively hard, and just kind of like beaming through every scene, just to kind of like up the drama of it all.
Yeah.
And so honestly, like half of the lighting setups are like setting that M40 up in like, the right spot, and maybe like kind of just like shaping it a little bit and then calling it a day. But I think in that living room we had just like, that M40 going out the window, and then just some light mats inside, kind of like filling in certain areas, or depending on where we were looking and where the talent was. But it was, if the crew size I think was 3 and 3 on G&E. Was it, Ryan? Do you remember?
Yeah. I think we might have had 3 and 3 in a swing. It was 25 total, including myself, and then below the lines. But so. Yeah, that sounds about right.
I mean, it was like definitely. I try to, as much as I can, like build my package to like, suit the manpower that's available to me, to keep things going. And like, so like I said, it was like an M40, M18. I think there was a Joker or a sky panel. Pretty much like your standard HMI LED package. And yeah,
I saw in one of those BTS photos one of my current favorite.
Too, right?
I was gonna say one of my current favorite pieces of gear, the Matthews Max Menace arm.
Yeah, it's killer, man. Yeah,
it's definitely a grip saver.
Yeah.
So I mean, with all those locations, I was curious, like for both you guys, like just the number of company moves, like what's the trick for keeping crews keeping crew energy up and able to keep schedule and keep pace with the, just the schedule that you have to get through?
I think just like keeping it fun. I remember like we were listening to a lot of music the whole time that we were making this, and I think that like kind of like lighten the vibe on set for sure. And I don't know, just trying to like, no matter what, like it's getting rained out. Like I feel like that happened multiple times. Like just like when you're like kind of like, and you got like such an ambitious schedule, you just try and like be fun and be super grateful, and like make everybody, constantly remind everybody how appreciated they are and the work that they're doing, because it's not easy.
Yeah, for sure. I try to keep things as light as possible. Like I think that was my Bluetooth speaker. Whenever I can, I like listening to music on set, just to kind of keep it light. And you can sort of see that affecting people, just singing to each other, tapping, dancing, that kind of stuff. Music helps a lot. I mean, and for my part, I just like to I like to know what I want as much as possible, not make people like overwork and do things they don't have to, or do a lot of resets and, shifts because I'm changing my mind every 2 seconds, just knowing what you want on set and going for it.
And thankfully, like like client and agency, I guess, like trusted us, because we didn't really ever run into a situation where we set something up and then it was like, oh, there's a lot of problems here, we got to go back and like back to the drawing board. It was just kind of everything we did, everyone was down, so it just took, it was nice to have that like trust and cooperation from all sides.
Yeah, we would have been in trouble, I think, if there was a lot of halting to discuss things. So I think everyone understood. It was very
with
nice and
with the
collaborative.
players like that. That was like I can't even believe that we like got to even like make setups out of any of those, because they're like, you get 5 minutes with Carson Wentz, you get 5 minutes with they're going to come in and do something once and then they're going to leave, and then,
I mean, we brought such minimal setups in to shoot the play, but we were told it was the most they've ever allowed anyone to bring in ever.
It's like a couple Titan tubes,
Were you given an accurate window of when they'd show up, or were you kind of waiting around?
For the most part.
For the most part, yeah.
But that was, I mean, there was a lot of talk about those windows, and we were given those windows like very last minute too, So that's just the nature of working with like big, busy talent in the middle of a football or gearing up for a football season. So
if they're 3 minutes
shot this
late
like
to
a
your
week
5-minute session.
That's right.
What's that?
We shot this like a week out.
Go ahead, Luke.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Drew.
Oh yeah, we did shoot it like a week out, and they turned it around super fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was August that we shot it. Yeah.
So, I mean, for something like that, were you able to look at? Were you able to like oversee a color grade on this one, or was it just kind of pushed through?
I think it went out. They did a pass with the editor. This grade that we're looking at is actually my grade. It lives on my site just to, they met the deadline and got it out there, and I thought it looked great for the client. But you always want to tweak your own stuff a little bit more. So I went back in and just gave it a solid pass with more time than we had available to us at the actual time.
Yeah. I guess that's another thing from like passion projects, DIY, kind of making it as like Ryan has become a capable colorist, editor, sound designer. Is kind of like just doing it all.
Do you guys find that you get access to sit like in on the grade frequently, or is it more often than not that you get handed the final product and are left with it?
I mean, we've gotten lucky enough to be able to grade some of our stuff, right? Like at least like we've been able to do it, but rarely get to sit in on a grade. I mean, we sat in on Fishtown Soldier because we paid for it, you know?
Right.
But like anymore, it's usually just like bouncing back and forth over email notes with a colorist whenever I get to work with one. And if not, it's we try and make the effort to be like, could we do it? And as long as that like everyone's cool with it, then we just go for it.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. I mean, it's worth it's sort of a leading in, talking from Fishtown Soldier into this, that Fishtown Soldier, like a no money out of pocket passion project, is what led us to doing the Eagles thing, essentially, because after Fishtown Soldier came out, I met with the folks at 160. They called me to just sort of like have me come in and like, hey, what are you all about, and get like see me face to face. Leading in, talking from. So yeah, it's been which I was super excited about. 160 has been like crushing it for a long time, and their work's been something I aspired to since I started shooting. So I was really excited to start that relationship, and I think it's been pretty good. Like the people there, I really love and have grown like a great working relationship with. So I guess I can't overstate that importance of passion projects. Half the time I get called for jobs anymore, it's like they're always referencing like Fishtown Soldier and Stronger, like the film I did with LU, and like every single like piece on my site, they're always like, oh yeah, like we saw that piece and that kind of won you the job, or like that's every time we do one, it kind of like restates that like how the importance of just making personal work is. I've had a lot of conversations with like younger filmmakers or kids in film school that have just like reached out, and they're just like, how do you get work? And I'm like, by making work. Like there's no like simple way to do it other than just like pick a thing you like and go make it. And if like you don't like it, make another one, and then make another one. Because without question, every single time
and put it out there, like
Right,
make
right.
it and you know, let
Yeah.
people know that you made it.
Yeah. So I mean, that process, you guys aren't really ever stopping doing that, because more recently you did a project called Form, which I want to just see. We're kind of like approaching the time limit we thought we were going to stay within, but I do want to just kind of look at it because it's such a cool project, and I think, would you categorize that as a passion project?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a friend of mine who had something in mind that she wanted to do, to submit to this thing, but they had like no money, and you know, if you wanted to, I should say no money. You know, they had like $2,000 to spend, but for what we did with it, you know, it was clearly like would have cost much more. So we ended up, you know, I put money out of my pocket to make this, and they trusted us with, you know, the good thing is you get creative control then, if that's sort of the agreement between those things. So I was like, Drew, do you want to do this thing with me? Because I think we could like flex a little bit and just like make something cool that we're stoked on, and just experiment a little bit. And that's kind of what we did. They had my friend Josie, she owns a salon, so they were hair and makeup, and handled everything with the models and like that side of producing it and pulling them in. And then we shot this at Rittenhouse, really small crew, key grip gaffer, AC, Drew, and I think a PA or two, maybe a swing also.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think it was just. Maybe. I think it was just 2 people on G&E, right? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, but
Really bad at remembering these things.
Yeah.
Had you been kind of like working over this, like, I don't know, some of the visual like style piece motifs that we see in this video, have those been like in your head for other projects, and like you kind of saw an opportunity to put them all out in one video here, or
Well,
was
I think it came from, I mean, there was kind of a brief and some references coming from the client. Some music video stuff, and you know, they liked that kind of glitchy, a little bit like weird look to
Kind
some
of fashion
stuff.
vibes. Yeah.
So we had references, and Drew came over, and we just like watched a bunch of stuff, and like it's kind of a part of our process. If we have time now, I think we'll like get together and just watch a bunch of shit and pull like a ton of screen grabs and just throw them all together and start like really just like ingesting all of that visual information. So then you can quickly, you know, make decisions.
And then like kind of, like synthesizing it too, like pulling certain things from certain references and combining them with things from other references, and like, you know, I mean, not like really like reverse engineering, but like trying to find something, you know, new, but like that is definitely like we're like, oh, we've never really done this type of like kind of like weird fashion looks, and now we're like, here's a couple videos that look pretty cool that would be fun to like try and experiment with. And just also like there's an element of just like throwing stuff to the wall and seeing what sticks on the day.
Yeah. I mean, we were literally just, I mean, I think Drew and I were pretty informed because we did like look at so many references and figure it out ahead of time. So every decision wasn't just like out of the blue. Like, I think we all felt it, that it was within the world we were making. But there was, I mean,
I think like often when we were setting things up, like we would like some type of weird happy accident like would occur, and we'd be like, wait a second, I like that. Like, let's follow that direction now. And like, you know, so like coming up with a plan, but like keeping things a little bit loose on the day, that kind of like gives you a chance to like respond to, you know, like any like inspiration that might pop up, you know, and kind of like chase that for a little while.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun to shoot. For that reason. And you know, everyone works for like lowered rates, like knowing like, hey, this is just going to be a thing where we can all just mess around and feel free to give input. Let's just all be creative and have a good time with it.
Who was your crew on
that? We had Zach Van Heel gaffing. We had Connor key gripping. Easton came out to AC. And am I missing anyone?
A guy named John Martin was our PA on that. Great job on that. Yeah.
It looks like it would have been a lot of fun to work on that. Honestly, for people who enjoy lighting and whatnot, it looks like you guys had.
Yeah, I think that was
the
like
opportunity to experiment.
Totally. This is like part of the draw of like, working once again, like I guess when you're like asking for favors and people to come out for lower, kind of lower budget stuff and passion project stuff, like trying to keep everybody engaged. Like I wanted, Zach and Connor to pitch in with their own ideas as like, as much as they could throughout the day to like be like, let's nerd out and like light the shit out of this and see like what we can, like what the coolest images that we can possibly make. And like, they were all for it. So I was really appreciative of that and their help and engagement.
Yeah, they contributed so much to this. There were a lot of moments where they were just going like, what do you think of this? And we were like, whoa, we just turn around and
totally.
like, yeah, let's do that. It was great. My favorite shot in this is the wide, I think, that we all sort of like the big wide with all the stripes that everyone.
Yeah, we should talk about that because everybody asks me how we did that like incessantly.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing, and I can,
Yeah.
How'd you do it?
It's four Licos. All with party gels on them, and just like on both sides of the camera, like at a 45, all just blasting at the subject in the center.
Yeah. But it took
and like how often do you do that? Like it's pretty simple,
Never.
But
we there was a reference. There was a particular, I forget the brand, but it might have been a little Nike thing, but there was a Kobe Bryant thing where he was on a seamless, and it was like a single source where he's standing in it, and that was sort of what we drew from. And I had photoshopped and like drawn up like a version of what we shot then with multiple sources then, but we had never like tried it before. And we set it up initially because it was white light in the reference, and that's how I drew it up. And then it just looks super flat when we set it up because it's just two 45s with the same output. And Connor, that's one thing Connor contributed, was like, well, okay, how else can we create color or create contrast? We can add color. So he went through a couple gels on, and we were like, okay, this is something. Okay, this
really, you guys weren't looking at gels prior to?
No,
really.
Yeah.
I
mean, we were coloring the shit out of everything else.
Yeah,
too,
there were other gels that we had like picked through for other scenes, but we didn't originally start lighting that with the intention of having gels or color.
Yeah, and that's an example of like having something in your head ahead of time and kind of getting stuck on it because it was just this white light version of that, and then your crew, trusting your crew and having them coming in and saving you and like figuring out how to be better.
Yeah, totally.
So, is there a light coming from above on this as well, like straight down?
No.
That is white.
Yeah,
it's all the
it's just kind of the mixing of the colors
mixing together with like I guess it's skipping off the psych, and that was like a happy surprise. I was like, oh, she like turned out kind of neutral rather than
right,
split. And I don't know. It was just like it felt like I forgot. I guess it felt like we stumbled upon it, but it was also it was also kind of something that we were going for, I guess. But
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was the best version of it.
See it come. Yeah, exactly. The best version.
Well, I got to circle back and give you guys a compliment. Like you talked about how your, working relationship has developed and you guys have some respect for one another, like, jumping in places that maybe are non-traditional throughout the shoots. And I think that in all of these projects, that also translates then to the whole rest of your crew being able to like develop these awesome projects, especially, with limited means or limited time frames. So just had as a crew person, throw that out your way. I think that's awesome that you guys are able to carry that relationship, down the line.
Thanks.
Yeah. Really, I don't know, it's super important to me. It's probably just anxiety, but about how the people on set are, perceiving their day, trying to just make sure that no one's pissed off at me is probably where it all comes from. But try to be as thankful and as appreciative to everybody that's
right on
helping us make something.
For sure. Guys, well, I wanted to thank you for coming on and let us talk about some of your projects. I suggest anyone who's watching to check out some more of their work, Ryan and Drew's work. Both these guys have websites where you can see some of the stuff they've done. It's really great work. For you guys, I don't know how you're hoping to spend the next couple of weeks in this quarantine. I hope you guys have some stuff cooking or see the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know, what do you do? Do you see any light?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know. I think like this will all come rushing back someday, but I don't know.
Yeah,
it will.
I feel pretty. I don't know. I'm surprisingly stoked about it. I was just coming off like the slow period in the winter, and then this kicked in. Typically, I'm like, I create my own pressure on myself to do stuff all the time, but when you can't do anything and it's taken away and you have no control over the situation, I'm just kind of like, all right, I can chill out now a little bit. Like, so I'm feeling pretty good. Adding
that's right. I guess we are rebranding as like musicians and composers now.
yeah.
So we'll continue our collaborations, but now we're just gonna make weird soundtracks.
Yeah.
You save that budget on the soundtrack royalties to your next spot.
Yeah. Just come right to us. We're a package
look
deal.
at that.
There you go. Look,
Nice. Can it scroll?
Production value.
Yeah, you guys are really up in it
too. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah. And we'll see you in person sometime soon.
Yeah,
absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Cool.
And thanks everyone for watching.
All right.
Thanks everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.